What's going on, guys? I appreciate you stopping by today. I want to talk to you about something that's been weighing pretty heavy on my mind ever since Trump took office, and it's treason. A lot of people, especially in the Democrat Party, trying to put up their resistance as they have, you might say have been skating on the edge, or let's say they're skating on thin ice of treason, right? There's just been lots of examples of that. I've pulled a few up here to share with you guys today. But anytime I'm talking about the Democrats or the New World Order or the globalists or, the warmongers that are trying to get us involved in World War III, then I have to rely on my anti-communist glasses because it helps me see through the propaganda to what the reality and truth is. So before we get into it, we should define treason. What does it mean? Well, the standard American Heritage Dictionary says that treason is the betrayal of allegiance towards one's own country, especially by committing hostile acts against it or aiding its enemies in committing such acts. So they especially mean hostile acts. Now, I wouldn't say that so far anyway, it hasn't become hostile. Now, a lot of people are predicting that we're going to see a repeat of the Summer of Love, as they called it, mostly peaceful protests of 2020 and all that. I think they're working on something big for early spring or, early summer, something like that. They're going to try to pull something. They are. There's too many people that are just the antithesis of what classical Americanism is, which I believe is what Trump is trying to restore. It's early in his presidency. He could prove me wrong. He could totally turn the tables and turn out to be the worst president we've ever had. But so far, he's really impressing me with the direction that he's trying to go with the country by trimming the fat. It's what you do as a CEO. You go in and you look at what could be cut. Where can we save money? Where can we be more productive with the same amount of people? Stuff like that. He's looking at it as a corporation, which is important because at least the last guy didn't look at it that way at all. He looked at it more like a non-for-profit, print all the money you want to support all the ideas you have all around the world, as you can see from the hundreds of billions of dollars that Doge has already stopped or is in the process of stopping as we speak right now. So I've been really impressed by this. I know a lot of people, especially on the left, are turned off now by Elon Musk. It's gotten to the point where, if you haven't heard, these people are actively calling to do damage and hostile acts towards Tesla dealerships, Tesla owners, all this stuff. Liberals are lining up to sell their Teslas because they can't stand it anymore. A few years ago, they loved Elon Musk and everything about him, right? Everything that the electric cars and all that stuff that everyone had to have one as a virtue signal. Now they're selling them. I just think it's hilarious. But anyway, it's basically the betrayal of the allegiance towards one's own country. The allegiance towards one's own country. So every one of these, especially the elected officials, not the bureaucrats. See, that's the difference. The elected officials have to swear allegiance to uphold and defend the United States Constitution, the supreme law of the land, against enemies, both foreign and domestic. So they all know, it's all written out in the duties and the job description of what they're supposed to do in the Constitution, okay? And what they're not supposed to do. The Democrats in the last 4 or 5 years, and it's not just the Democrats, it's the globalist New World Order agenda, the people like Klaus Schwab, the WEF, the UN, Agenda 21, 2030, all those things. They all come together. I mean, it was announced that, I don't know if many people actually caught on to that, but the UN and the WEF became partners or allies or something along those lines. So they're both working for the same end goal. Total global dominance and, just total control over every aspect of every human being's life and their decisions, how they spend their money, how they make their money, how they receive their money. I mean, everything is an absolute opposite of what the founding fathers of the United States of America had in mind for us. In fact, they would have been running for the hills, running for the muskets to fight these people off. But instead, they figured out ways through propaganda and stuff, and through doublespeak. They figured out how to use doublespeak to make bad things seem like and sound like good things. So, you know, let me give you one example off the top of my head. The Inflation Reduction Act. Did it reduce inflation? No. In fact, it increased inflation. So why was it called the Inflation Reduction Act? Well, that's just one example of hundreds of thousands or millions of bills, laws, rules, and regulations that have been passed in this country to make every single person in this country possibly guilty of one of these obscure laws that you've never heard of. So that's why, I don't remember who famously said it, but there was a famous saying years ago, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Okay, that's important because they have figured out how to weaponize the legal system. And we all witnessed it firsthand. And I think that's why Trump actually had the overwhelming support from all the different races, creeds, religions, whatever, sexes. He had a lot of support across the board because people realized that the Democrats had weaponized the legal system against Trump. You know, I'm not saying that the stuff with Stormy Daniels was pure or good or anything like that. No, I'm not. Or I'm not excusing it. The point is, that kind of stuff has gone on over and over and over amongst all politicians, and no one ever gets prosecuted or brought, what was it, 87 counts of whatever, they had against Trump at one time. The point was the American people saw through the weaponization of the Justice Department. The DOJ with Merrick Garland, the way he was handling the border, the way Biden's orders were he was suing Texas, the Texas governor, the Arizona governor. Arizona did put up a huge, beautiful shipping container wall. They figured out, hey, we got all these shipping containers, they're cheap, we can put them up, we can make a temporary type wall until the permanent wall gets built. Biden sued them, made them tear it down. The Biden administration, Merrick Garland, the Department of Justice, all this. They said, no, you're overstepping your bounds, Arizona. That's our responsibility, not yours. The same thing happened again in Texas when they actually actively went in and cut down fences that Governor Abbott and the Texas, Border Patrol or whoever it was that put that up. They worked hard to do that. They spent taxpayer money to do that. And here comes Biden and his people ordering them to cut down the fence. You guys remember, I don't want to rehash everything, but there was also the floating barriers. And the reason that they were taking this stuff down was because it was effective. It worked. They didn't want to do anything to impede or stop or slow the flood of immigrants that were supposed to come in here. And even though to you and I, it's a huge number. It was, I don't even remember how many millions they say it was, and we have no idea. The point is, it doesn't matter how many came. They wanted it and they planned it to be, and when I say they, I mean the New World Order, the UN. I don't want to say that every time. So when I say they, that's who I'm talking about. The controllers that really control things. The deep state, if you want to call them that, although that's too simplistic of a way to describe it. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys today about treason. And I wanted to give you at least one, maybe two examples of how the deep state, and not only that, the states are actively using lawfare to do a form of legal treason, a legal insurrection, if you will. I'm not even really sure what to call this. We'll go through, what's it called? Title 18, Chapter 115, Treason, Sedition, and Subversive Activities. And we'll try to figure out which one it is that they're doing, but they're definitely up to no good. So let me read you this headline. Revealed. Secret resistance agreement between blue states, okay? Left-wing groups and New York City law firm to conduct coordinated lawfare against Doge and Elon Musk. So right now, the biggest thorn in the Democrat Party side, the biggest bee in their bonnet is Doge, because Doge, first off, came for the low-hanging fruit. USAID. Everyone has known since everyone that pays attention has known that since its inception, USAID has been, how can I describe them? I mean, they've just been on the wrong side of everything. They've been funding both sides of every war, funding people, funding things like the Maidan revolution or whatever they called it, the color revolution that was funded, started, supported, and, nurtured by people like Victoria Nuland and Joe Biden, Barack Obama, all that crap that went down in 2014, and the American media, and even Republican politicians refuse to acknowledge this, and I don't understand why they don't just come out and say it. There must be some reason that I'm unaware of, that the real behinds, maybe the Joint Chiefs are telling them, hey, you can't say that. Even though it's true, you can't say that. That the United States should admit guilt, that we were the ones that actually started this war with Russia and Ukraine, not Russia. Russia was acting just like we would have acted if someone would have come down and, if the Chinese would have moved in, or the Russians would have moved into Mexico or Canada and started bowing up and trying to get them to join their little party, their little club, right, called NATO. And so that's a whole nother thing. There's a lot of talk behind the scenes right now amongst the Republicans that it's time for us to get out of NATO. NATO has overstayed its welcome. It's become obsolete because we're not fighting the USSR anymore, which is what it was originally designed to do. Just a side note here. Did you guys know that sometime during the 90s, I believe it was Gorbachev, don't quote me on that part, but one of the leading Russian, prime minister, president, whatever they call them over there, came to the United States and asked to join NATO. And you know what NATO told them? Go pound sand. This is all about fighting you and taking your land. And that's what all of this stuff is about, is, Europe is out of money and they want to take Russia. They want to take that, whatever they think it is. I think they said like $75 trillion worth of resources that they figured out that Russia has, that Europe wants to get its hands on so it can bail itself out of its overspending and its, just irresponsible government that it's been living under for years and years. And I think almost all Western countries have succumbed to that sort of mentality where it's just, you want to democratize some nation that is run by a dictator. Well, we go in there and we undermine them, no matter what. Even if that person was voted in, maybe not a dictator, but maybe they have some perceived level of democracy in that place. It doesn't matter if they don't support the New World Order agenda. It's not just the United States. See, for years and years, the U.S. has been the secret police of the New World Order and pushing this agenda. That's what all this, we're all shocked by it. USAID spends, $100 billion on whatever, I'm not saying the right numbers, but it's always some weird stuff that's anti-American culture, anti-American traditional culture, right? What is that about? Pro LGBTQ stuff in all countries on every corner of the earth. What is that about? That's about the globalist agenda. That's about the New World Order. Everything you see like that, especially when it looks like it's a unified front with all these other ideologies, such as the WEF and Agenda 21, 2030, stuff like that. I mean, then it's clear. But yeah, let me read you these states that are right now trying to stop Doge from uncovering all of this corruption, all of these kickbacks that are, it's basically a slush fund that Congress has developed. USAID was, that Democrats mostly in Congress had, this kickback, this money laundering thing where they could take taxpayer money, put it in here. This thing was called USAID, and often people call it USAID. See, because it fools the masses into thinking, oh, this is good. See, and they can always name 2 or 3 good things they're doing. Well, you don't want Africans getting AIDS down there in Africa, do you? Well, that's what we do. We stop that, see? That's where all these hundreds of billions of dollars are going. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah, right. And then Elon opens their computers up, even though from what I heard, the damn fools left their computers open and they came right in and were like, wow, oh my God, I can't believe this. And they copied them down to a flash drive or whatever. And they're still coming through all of the I mean, just again, is it treason? I don't know, but it's definitely not in the interest of the American people, of a good, solid, family, freedom, self-governance, all those things, liberty. It's not in the mindset of that. So in my mind, it does not follow the tenets of the supreme law of the land, the U.S. Constitution. Therefore, it should be wiped off the thing. I mean, let's put it this way. I'm all for helping people with donations and different things like that around the world even. There are people that are born into bad circumstances, and we would like to be able to help them as the United States. But first, we have to clean house. We have to get our own act together before we can send hundreds of billions of dollars or trillions of dollars, whatever they're going to uncover in U.S. taxpayer money to foreign nations for bullshit that, I mean, it's just unbelievable. But these people are fighting tooth and nail, these blue states. So let me read them off to you. If you're living in one of these blue states, I highly suggest that, when you're opposed to this, I highly suggest you contact your congressman and let them know that you're opposed to this bullshit. This article is from the Gateway Pundit. I'll try to provide a link if I remember to down in the description. But they're calling this a common interest agreement. It's entered into by and between the states of New Mexico, Arizona, Michigan, California, Connecticut, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington State. And also State Democracy Defenders Fund. So that's something right there. I haven't done it myself, but I think that alone, State Democracy Defenders Fund. Elon Musk and Doge needs to look into that. Where does that money come from? Is it legitimate? Is it legal? Is it somehow under the, the government bureaucracy umbrella, or is it its own private entity? If so, then, if it's private, then Elon probably can't do anything about it. But if it's under the umbrella of the government, then they should look into that. But these parties have agreed that they have a common interest in developing legal strategies to challenge the creation and actions of the Department of Government Efficiency and the actions of Elon Musk as a special government employee, and a common interest in existing or future investigative, regulatory, administrative, and judicial actions or inactions, including but not limited to any administrative judicial proceedings related to or arising from those legal strategies, matters of common interest, the document read. So they're pissed off about this $105 billion in savings because, again, not all of that slush fund money was going to come back to Democrats directly, but indirectly it funds all of their little stuff. A lot of that money from USAID was going to George Soros. A lot of his organizations were responsible for bringing those people, those caravans, putting those caravans of migrants, as they call them, to make it sound wonderful. It's just a caravan of people, man. They just want what you have, the American dream. See, and they think they're acting like there's plenty of pie for everyone, but we're all looking around. There's only a couple slices of pie left, and they're saying we got to share it with everybody. No. The American people overwhelmingly voted no. So for people that don't know, the way it works in a democratic republic like we live in here in the United States of America is that every 4 years we go vote, and if we don't like it, we vote for someone else that's going to take us a different direction. Well, that's exactly what happened. The Democrats are all butthurt about it, and they're not going to give up. They're getting the states together to fight on a state level legally through Lawfare to stop stop the progress. So the $105 billion in savings, that they say that's just the tip of the iceberg. Elon and them say it could be over $1 trillion. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched about 50% of the show where Elon was on Joe Rogan, and there was a lot of stuff that was real interesting that came out. They said $22 billion from HHS. What is that? Human Housing Services. I don't know what the hell it stands for. Well, another bureaucracy, right? That probably we could do without. $22 billion for free housing and cars for illegal aliens. Did you get free housing and free cars or any of that shit? No, you shouldn't. And I don't even want that, because that's like socialism. We don't want that. So this is incremental socialism, what they're doing, and they're doing it on a bureaucratic level so that you and I don't know what's going on. $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. That's why Trump wants to cut and gut the Department of Education. It needs to happen. It should have never been formed. I'm not going to put the chart up because I probably won't be able to find it, but I have personally seen it. You've probably seen it yourself, where they show from the time that the Department of Education was established in like 77, I want to say, Jimmy Carter, to now, you can see the trend in how smart the kids is just dropping off. The intelligence of our kids coming out of this Department of Education is just unbelievably low. And, you know, it probably just needs to be ended and taken back to the states. Let the states handle it. I think that's a good idea. And then that would give people more choice. If you find out in the future that, you know, let's say Arizona suddenly has the best schools in the nation. Well, a lot of people with children will probably want to move there for that reason. $45 million for DEI in Burma, $40 million to improve social and economic inclusion for sedentary migrants. And Trump's made a couple of jokes about that. He's like, what does that mean? Sedentary. Sedentary, and he makes a good point. Sedentary means you're sitting still. You're not doing nothing. You're just hanging around. Well, that's not what migrants do. They move to your place and take your shit. And you can see here, I mean, $22 billion for free housing and cars for illegals. That's where a lot of that stuff, you guys heard this, that they shut down like 59 million or something like that they were trying to squeak through. Again, going against what the Trump administration has openly said the direction is going to be. So these federal agents, in my opinion, are committing treason, a type of treason, or sedition, or something like that. Maybe it's just rebellion, but either way, all of those things are forbidden. $8 million for LGBTQ promotion in Lesotho. Who the hell? I don't even know where that is. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Caribbean empowerment in Central America. I don't know what that is. Do you? What is Afro-Caribbean empowerment? And why the fuck does America and our taxpayers have to pay for it? That's the real question. $8 million for making mice transgender. I mean, I'm not worried about transgender mice. I don't think it's a good thing to be experimenting with animals like that at all. We all know that there's all kinds of weird transhumanism stuff. In fact, I've got a whole video idea that I've been working on, but it's huge. It's going to take me forever to get through it. But there's a push for what Hitler called and people of that time called the Übermensch, Superman. They're trying to make Superman, right? They want to bring this stuff, combined DNA. Oh, I'm going to put some dragonfly DNA in this human. And maybe it's illegal to do here out in the open, but we all know it's going on. And it's definitely going on in places like China and probably Russia. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, $32 million for left-wing propaganda in Moldova. No, I don't think that's necessary. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. I don't know where that is. $20 million for Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It was probably, you know, pro-LGBT viewpoints as well. I mean, just none of this stuff. I'm not going to bore you with this. There's just hundreds of billions of dollars of government waste that could have easily funded a wall. Remember Trump's first term, they said we can't afford to do it. Well, not when you're spending like this. No, of course you can't afford it. But yeah, these people in all these different states, in my opinion, should be investigated for treason. Here's another one that was from January 2025, so a few months ago. Deep state rising. Poll finds federal employees ready to resist Trump's second term. And according to this RMG research study, 42% of federal managers in Washington, D.C. intend to oppose a possible second Trump administration. 42% of federal workers are opposing the executive in charge. Do you think that's right? Do you think that's how the government and the system is supposed to work? Do you think they're supposed to be bogged down in legal and lawfare? Every time they try to do anything, they're getting stopped by some federal judge that Obama appointed or Biden appointed or whatever. Do you think that the legal system is supposed to be, there's a reason that Lady Justice or whatever is wearing a blindfold. It's because she is supposed to be blind and unbiased, but there's clearly a bias going on. Should these judges be, whatever, fired or whatever they call it, when you're removed as a judge? So here's what the U.S. Constitution says about it. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States. So that, in my opinion, would include many of these executives at the state level and certainly all of the federal employees. I don't know if I don't know if people at the FBI, I'm sure they probably do in law enforcement like FBI and maybe CIA, but I don't know about like at the HUD department, if these people are made to swear an oath to the Constitution to uphold and defend it against foreign and domestic enemies. I don't know. But it says here, whoever owing an allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000. So let's talk about that a little more. Let's expand on that. So these people, in my opinion, they owe allegiance to the United States. They're working as federal employees. Now, maybe you can't say that about the states, but certainly the feds that they find that are doing these things, and maybe they're not levying direct war like you and I think of, physical, violent war, kinetic war. But it's a type of warfare where they're using lawfare and the legal system to stop everything that the duly elected president and his administration is trying to accomplish. That is not the spirit of how this country is supposed to work. It clearly spells it out here, but the Democrats don't like it because they're not in charge. That's basically what it comes down to. But if you give them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, so my argument is they're giving aid to the enemies of the United States of America, the people that run the New World Order. That's what I'm talking about. That's what Biden was all about. That's what Barack Obama was all about. That's what George W. Bush was all about in the end. Adhering to the global rules and these global courts and stuff. The United States of America shouldn't have to answer to any global court or nothing supersedes the supreme law of the land. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand. They're just ignoring it. They're choosing to leave that out. And so, anyway, it's getting wild, guys. The Democrats are pulling out all the stops to try to stop Trump's agenda. So, anyway, I got to let you go. I'm hearing some stuff going on out here in the background. Please let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Are these people committing treason or something along those lines? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's the direction that Trump and his DOJ ought to pursue. They ought to go after these people. If they put up too much resistance like that and refuse to adhere to the new rules of the land, then, in my opinion, they either need to be fired immediately or tried for treason, or perhaps it's sedition, or perhaps it's just rebellion or insurrection. Remember how they love to throw insurrection around right after January 6th. So anyway, let me know down in the comments what you guys think about all this. How should we proceed? We've got to be able to, you got to be able to crack a few eggs if you're going to, make a cake or something like that, or scramble an omelet, or whatever. So anyway, let me know what you guys are thinking about and what we could do on a local level. Do you think calling your representatives and stuff like that would help? I don't really know. That's the only thing that we have to do, though. I guess until all full-blown civil war or World War III kicks off, we won't know for sure. So anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.